Ooh-wee. Good evening, fellas, and any ladies in the chat, viewers, whatever. Oh, welcome to tonight's program. I am late, but I am still your host, Stuart Davis. I am a flawed man of God. I am a deacon at a small church outside of Richmond, Virginia. I'm not a pastor, I'm not a biblical scholar, and I haven't been to seminary. I'm not trying to get you to join my church or donate to any special cause. What I'm here to do is talk about God, talk about Jesus, talk about the Holy Spirit, talk about Christianity, talk about the Bible, talk about a wide variety of issues. Um, talk about a wide variety of issues, topics, current events, and give you my perspective. One that I think is reflective of an average Christian guy. I've been a Christian all my life, 40 years, non denominational Protestant. I don't subscribe to any particular doctrine or denomination. I'm just in the Word every day, trying to do it better each time. So, if you are somebody who is interested in learning more about Jesus, if you are curious about Christianity, you want to learn more, maybe there's something, a voice in the back of your mind, wondering if there's more to your existence than just this life here on earth, well, thank you for joining the program. You are welcome to be here. Hopefully, you are able to get something out of this very lay person, very amateur approach to Christianity. And hopefully, this informal, casual, very, I don't know, relaxed setting will help dispel a lot of maybe misconceptions you might have coming into this. Um, Many people feel that the Bible is just a dry book full of rules, regulations, judgment, and guilt. And while you will find rules, regulations, judgment, and guilt, you will also find many other things: love, salvation, forgiveness, redemption, rich narrative, acts of heroism, betrayals, and above all, sacrifice and victory. Some people think that church is a place where hypocritical and self righteous people go to congregate to look down on other people, talk about them, discuss how great they are, and use it as some sort of very weird, cultish, high society. It's not about that. True church, it's about family, it's about communion, it's about fellowship, it's about worship, it's about joy, it's about leaning on each other, good times and bad, holding each other accountable, and most importantly, church is about God, the bride of Christ, as we call her. And if you find the right place, like I have, then you will understand exactly what I mean, and you will see the value and why God puts the emphasis on church and fellowship the way that He does in the New Testament. So, with that said, everybody, welcome to Tuesday night's programming. How are you all doing? Hopefully, you guys are doing well and not running as late as I am. It's been kind of a hectic day. Stayed up a little bit too late last night and kind of been dragging a little bit about that, but that wasn't the issue. Spending some time with my son and took a little bit longer than normal to get him settled down into the evening, but all's well now. He's on his way down. He's on his way to Dreamland, and I'm on my way to this stream. So thank you for your patience, everybody. Glad to have you here. Emmanuel calling me out, late and femboid. I'll never be femboid. I may be late. And Nico might put cat ears on a picture of me, but I'll never be femboid. It's okay. God forgives you as we do, as we should. And you are first this evening. Porcupines in the house near Nath, Alex Moore. And I've heard the potential of 20 plus inches of snow forecasted for the next 2 days. We're supposed to be getting some snow this weekend. I like snow. I love snow. It's one of my favorite things to see. And maybe it's because I didn't grow up in the most northern part of New England or in the Midwest, or maybe even in the northern areas of Big Sky Country. And so I haven't been blasted with it, but I love a good snowfall. And most people around me would disagree. Folks in Virginia don't generally like snow. And the further south you get, the more scared people are of it. We're already terrified here. You can imagine how bad it gets. We're only halfway to Florida. Halfway to Florida. They don't know what to do with themselves. But it's been an unseasonably warm winter, especially the second half. December wasn't bad. November was actually quite chilly. But I like winter. I enjoy all the seasons for what they are. Spring, as the movement away from winter, where things start to warm up, and there's something to look forward to with the advent of summer. And who doesn't love summer? It's so hot. Everybody complains about it. They're ready for fall. I love it. Hot weather means ice cream, means cold beverages, something I love. The beach, pool time, all that cool stuff. Riding motorcycles, if that's what you're into. I am. I don't have a motorcycle right now, but I have owned a fair share of motorcycles. Um, and then fall, nice, cool, breezy. Um, kind of the similar to spring, but on the back end of the year, and then winter. I love it. I love it. I love all the seasons that God has given us. So it's maybe we'll get a little taste of something that we've missed all year. We've only seen a very, very light snow. It didn't even cover the ground. I'm not Yeah, it was melting as it hit the ground, but we actually got to see snow falling. My kids have missed out on the snowstorms that I kind of grew up with. We used to have a blizzard every other year, and we just don't get them anymore. So there you go. Let's see. Emmanuel says one drop of rain drops in the southwest, and you see people go from normal drivers to Mario Kart drifters flying off the rails. I imagine so. We get a fair amount of precipitation out here. It just never rains when I need it to in the middle of the summer. I live on a shallow well, which I like because I don't have a water bill. But at the same time, I'm constantly worried about it going dry in the summer when you have as many people living in my house as you do, and it ain't raining. I start to get worried about the water table. Emmanuel said, I like fall and winter in California. Everywhere else, it's really cold. Yeah. Yeah. There was a time where I was in Yuma, Arizona, not far from the California border. Not far from the California border. We were there at Yuma Marine Corps Air Station. It is actually where the Op 4 use as a runway at for Fighter Town, Miramar, from Top Gun. If any of you guys are familiar with that, that is where the Op 4 takes off. And it was funny because I was coming in there when we flew in. We saw the F-5 Tigers right there, and they've also got a fair amount of Harriers there. Of course, this was 15, almost 20 years ago. Gosh, time has gone by. It's kind of insane now that I'm thinking about it. But yes, it was in the middle of November. We were going out to hit the town, and we were in t-shirts and shorts, and we were running into people with leather jackets and scarves in 70-degree weather, high 60s, low 70s. I didn't know. I was like, are you serious? Porcupine says, also, I have my 3-year-old climbing all over my lap tonight. She's hitting that where she naps are non-existent. Pray for me and the mayhem that ensues. 3 years old. I love it. I love it. I was thinking about how much bigger hitting that age. Oh, she's hitting that age where naps are non-existent. Yeah. She's fighting it. But I was thinking about how much my son has been getting bigger, and he's getting closer and closer to that age where you start to worry that they don't want anything to do with you, but he hangs out with me, so that's good. We're buddies. I mean, in the sense that we enjoy each other's company. We have good talks, but he knows who's in charge. I'm not the parent who wants to be best friends with their kids. I mean, I want to be best friends with them when they get older. And I do like the camaraderie of being a dad and having a son. But you got to set them up for success. And that means understanding the hierarchy of the family. And I'm sad Nico's not here. This one I really wanted Nico to be here tonight because we're going to be talking about somebody who is near and dear to our hearts as Bible readers who are thirsting for justice and wondering, can anybody just do it the right way? We're going to find somebody who does. But not before Israel plucks God's last nerve and he decides to punish them again. So let's get into tonight's reading. This might be a short stream. And now that I've said that, it will probably go on for another hour and a half. That's why you give your kids the kids nighttime NyQuil. Works every time. Look at me, I came out well. Look, a little visit from the Ether Bunny works every time. My kids are generally good sleepers, though. I mean, when it's time to sleep, they're normally right out. Daughter takes a little bit longer than the son, but he is like me. When he's tired, gone. He's gone. All right, so let's get into our reading tonight. We've been going over various kings of Israel and Judah, and most of them have been bad. Some of the Judah kings have been good-ish. But they lack a certain quality. My parents crushed half a Benadryl in our applesauce. Good night, guys. How bad were y'all? I was a terrible kid, and my parents didn't do that. Maybe that's why. In the Midwest, it's brandy or whiskey on the gums. I thought that was for colic, not for 3-year-olds. Good night. I was a good sleeper, though. That might have been the other thing. Parents never really had a problem with me in that end. All right. Hoshea, last king of Israel. That's the Mohicans. Chapter 17, 2 Kings, chapter 17. In the 12th year of Ahaz, king of Judah, Hoshea, son of Elah, became king of Israel and Samaria, and he reigned 9 years. He did evil in the eyes of the Lord, but not like the kings of Israel who preceded him. Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, came up to attack Hoshea, who had been Shalmaneser's vassal and had paid him tribute. But the king of Assyria discovered that Hoshea was a traitor, for he had sent envoys to So, king of Egypt, and he no longer paid tribute to the king of Assyria, as he had done year by year. Therefore Shalmaneser seized him and put him in prison. The king of Assyria invaded the entire land, marched against Samaria, and laid siege to it for 3 years. It's a long time, guys. In the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of Assyria captured Samaria and deported the Israelites to Assyria. He settled them in Hala, in Gozan, on the Habor River, and in the towns of the Medes. Okay, so Hoshea is a little bit different. Did evil in the eyes of the Lord, but did it differently, right? Maybe it sounds like maybe not as bad, but what it does seem like he doesn't do a good job looking after his people in any respect. And he is not loyal to his benefactors. In this case, it's Assyria. Regardless of whatever it is, he does end up going to the Egyptians for help. And that doesn't make the Assyrians very happy because they ain't getting their money. And they ain't getting their money. That's when the bats come out and the kneecaps get blown out. And in this case, Hoshea gets put into prison. And the king of Assyria takes the Israelites and yeets them out of the promised land. Which brings us to the next verse. Israel exiled because of sin. All this took place because the Israelites had sinned against the Lord their God, who had brought them up out of Egypt from under the power of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. They worshipped other gods and followed the practices of the nations the Lord had driven out before them, as well as the practices that the kings of Israel had introduced. The Israelites secretly did things against the Lord their God that were not right. From watchtower to fortified city, they built themselves high places in all their towns. They set up sacred stones and Asherah poles on every high hill and under every spreading tree. At every high place, they burned incense as the nations to whom the Lord had driven out before them had done. They did wicked things that aroused the Lord's anger. They worshipped idols though the Lord had said, "You shall not do this." That's very true. The Lord warned Israel and Judah through all his prophets and seers, turn from your evil ways, observe my commands and decrees in accordance with the entire law that I commanded your ancestors to obey and that I delivered to you through my servants, the prophets. This isn't a new thing that happens, right? This has been going on for how many chapters? For how many kings? For how many years? How many decades? How many centuries? Israel has been messing up since Solomon. And Solomon started it, right? He realizes the errors of his ways. We'll talk about that. We're not getting into that just yet. He realized the errors of his ways, but at that point, the damage had already been done. He set in all of his wisdom, all the great things that Solomon did. He sets the stage for this level of sin. Not to say that they weren't going to slip into this anyway. There was already a very, very long track record of the Israelites from days after leaving Egypt doing incredibly dumb and heinous evil things that disgusted the Lord. Throughout the Exodus, they were doing it. There were plagues sent through the tents. Phineas, my man Phineas, had to spike a chieftain, and the thought he was over top of, spiked both of them with a spear because they did that right in front of the temple, the Ark of the Covenant. I think it was right in front of the Ark. Walks the if you guys remember, the priests were convening in front of the tent of the Lord. The Israelites are off and doing whatever. with whomever, and it sparked the Lord's anger. And during all this, the priests are meeting in front of the tent of the Lord, and as they're talking, here comes the chieftain running by, chasing some loose woman into his tent. And as they were fornicating, Phinehas calmly picks up a spear, walks into the tent, and shish kebabs them. Even back then, we have rebellion. We have faithlessness in God. The whole point that they have to wander for 40 years is all due to faithlessness, because they didn't have faith that God would deliver them victory against the Canaanites. And only Joshua and Caleb were the ones who showed truth and faith to Moses when they came back with their reports. Throughout Judges. Let's go before Judges. Let's go before Joshua. Moses at the end, Deuteronomy, when he's addressing the tribes in his great farewell address, basically, his great farewell address, he warns them of all this stuff that's being discussed here. Observe my commands and decrees in accordance with the entire law that I commanded your ancestors to obey and that I delivered to you through my servants and the prophets. Do these things and you will be blessed. Obey and you will be blessed. Have faith, trust in me, love me, and keep my commandments, and you will be blessed. If you do not, the wages of sin is death. If you do not, I will curse you. I will spit you out of this land just like I did to the Canaanites, because they did horrible, disgusting things. And perhaps the only difference between the Israelites and the Canaanites is that maybe there was some remnant. We know there's that at one point close to here, there was only 7,000 righteous Israelites still in the nation. The nation of hundreds of thousands, many hundreds of thousands, 7,000. But maybe that was 7,000 more that were still in Canaan. And the one thing that the Israelites are good at is running to God when they're in trouble, as we do, as we Christians are no different in this aspect. We take many things for granted. Oftentimes we find ourselves straying because things are easy. We start to get too much. We start to smell ourselves a little bit too much. We get too full of ourselves. We think we're better, or we think we're doing everything right, in which case we're not. Somewhere we're screwing up. This has been happening for a long time. Then Joshua says the same thing. Same thing. The judges, some of them say the same thing, but we still have Joshua. Joshua has a righteous generation of Israelites, minus a few indiscretions by a few people, but largely very good. A generation that God is pleased with. But then throughout Judges, up and down and up and down and up and down, and God save us, and God saves them, and then let's go back to do what we want to do. Let's go back to worshiping other gods. Can't stop it. They cannot stop, cannot help themselves. They run to other gods as quickly as some men run to pornography. And do wicked deeds. And then they're given a prophet, the last judge, Samuel. And what do they ask him for? A king. It's an insult to God. God says, fine, I'm warning you. You don't want one. Give it to us anyway. You got it. Here's your government. Just going to throw it down. Give it to you. It's going to ram that right down your throat. Saul does evil. And Ahab does evil. And David sins. And Solomon sins. All the way here to Hosea. He's sick of it. I can only take so much, and I can't take no more. It's time to punish you. Truly. But they would not listen and were as stiff-necked as their ancestors, who did not trust in the Lord their God. They rejected his decrees and the covenant he made with their ancestors and the statutes he had warned them to keep. They followed worthless idols and themselves became worthless. They imitated the nations around them, although God had ordered them do not do as they do. They forsook all the commands of the Lord their God and made for themselves two idols cast in the shape of calves. Cows. Really, people? It's not even lions. It's not a tiger. It's not a bear. It's not something strong and, awe-inspiring. It's not a great bird or like an eagle. It's not something swift and wise like a hawk. It's none of those things. It's a stupid baby cow. Two idols cast in the shape of calves and an Asherah pole. They bowed down to all the starry hosts and they worshipped Baal. They sacrificed their sons and daughters in the fire. They practiced divination and sought omens and sold themselves to do evil in the eyes of the Lord, arousing his anger. So the Lord was very angry with Israel and removed them from his presence. Only the tribe of Judah was left, and even Judah did not keep the commands of the Lord their God. They followed the practices Israel had introduced. Therefore, the God rejected all the people of Israel. He afflicted them and gave them into the hands of plunderers until he thrust them from his presence. When he tore Israel away from the house of David, they made Jeroboam, son of Nebat, their king. Jeroboam enticed Israel away from the following the Lord had caused them to go away from following the Lord and caused them to commit a great sin. The Israelites persisted in all the sins of Jeroboam and did not turn away from them until the Lord removed them from his presence. As he had warned through all his servants, the prophets. So the people of Israel were taken from their homeland and into exile in Assyria, and they are still there. Powerful. You don't got to go. You can't go home, and you got to get the hell out of here. Sick of looking at y'all. Don't get. And look, they were oppressed in Judges, and they were in some ways enslaved in Judges. Now they're being physically removed from the promised land. How's it going, Dresden? MR says, oof, that sucked. Hi, everyone. MR, I hope that's not about your bar exam. Hopefully you did well. Hopefully you've got good news to report. Guilty of running to God? I don't know if it's have to sign of guilt or a sign of faith. Even if it's done because you've been bad. The fact that you're running to him means the fact that you still see him as your savior, as your father, as the one you can lean on to when all the chips are down. Porcupine. Probably a more Friday topic, but the Israelites' strife and failing somewhat mirror many Christian nations' covenant when they turn away from his missions and towards worldly missions, sins, and greed. Oh yeah, I mean there's many similarities between Israel and the United States. or Great Britain, especially these days. It feels like we're as degenerate as you can possibly get. It's insane. And Emmanuel, yep, time over time, God always sends someone to remind his flock that there are consequences to our actions and that he will be there when we screw up. But the consequences are harsh if you let the sin take control. Indeed. This isn't a culture. This isn't a society struggling with overcoming sin. This is a culture and society fully embracing it, fully committed to it. Am I talking about the Israelites or am I talking about Americans and Western culture? Porcupine, sins of the father, sins of the sons too. Porcupine, they're all sinning. And Mar, it was about the bar. It's always tough. I did fine, I think. Just 6 hours of essays. Oh, shoot me after that. I hate essays. Hate essays. Yes, you do run to God. Good. And I hope God understands. He do, fam. He certainly do. To be nothing melts my heart more than seeing my kid when they've screwed up come running to me. Sorry. Genuinely sorry. It's similar to our lives when we take God for granted, but he removes his blessing from our life, and bad times ensue because our own actions and damn the consequences. It is only when we say we need to change for the better and strive for God's blessing. Oh, it's a multi-day process. Sorry, MR. Sorry about your luck, but hopefully you're blessed in them. Hopefully you're blessed with a passing grade. And also hope to see you in Philly. So here we go. Put in bondage and sent away. You can't be here anymore. You are no longer welcome. And Mark read Proverbs this morning. Also, quick question. Proverbs is great. It's got a lot of it's got a lot of relationship advice in there. No, Proverbs is not Catholic Bible only. We might visit, and I think we will once we're done with the Bible. We will likely visit the Catholic books with a heavy asterisk on it. Um, and I also wanted to touch on this as well because I was talking about this. This was a guest that many of y'all might not have touched on, might not remember this because this was before many of y'all came on the stream. But this was a small, not very much viewed show that I did with a guy named Dr. Von Mancha about epigenetics. We were talking a little bit today. He's got a great piece. I at least started reading it. In the first 7 pages of 32, he got a great little, short story, whatever you want to call it, report paper. He called it a paper. That's a good way to put it. 32-page paper about his reflections on the book of Job. And I think we're still probably a couple of months to get from getting to Job. Might be closer than that. But I definitely want to bring him on, and I definitely want to discuss it more because I thought he made some pretty good points in that. But he was talking about how epigenetics might be a clue as to how God determines sins of the father and generations it passes down. Really, the difference is in the Catholic Bible. The difference in the Catholic Bible is just that there's extra books. There's not really any difference in translations that I'm aware of. They do put Saint in front of their like the Saint John, Saint James, that kind of stuff. Saint Peter. Porcupine, P.S. I'll be in northern North Carolina in early August. Not sure how far that is from you, but we can grab a beer if possible. De- Depends on where. Like Raleigh is about 2 hours. It's not all that far. And so that's doable. But if you're out west in northern part of West North Carolina, it's going to be a haul. If you're out near the coast, it depends on where near the coast, on how close you'll be. But yeah, oh, definitely up for getting a cold one. Emmanuel, just as Adam and Eve were sent out of paradise because of eating the forbidden fruit, God always sets the rules, and if we break them, then there are things we're going to experience because of our wrongdoing. Sorry. I know you hit the character limit. You can be in the Outer Banks, Porcupine. Elizabeth City, Corolla, Duck, Kitty Hawk, Nag's Head. Starting to go south. Starting to get further south. What else is out there? It's north and near the coast other than the Outer Banks. I mean, if it's near 95, actually, if it's north and near 95, it's not that far, actually. It's not a difficult drive. Roanoke Rapids isn't near the coast. Rocky Mount is right down 295. Anyway, yeah. You know how to reach me to talk about it more. Anyway, it might be one of those meet me halfway kind of things. All right. Let's get back to the reading. Samaria resettled. The king of Assyria brought people from Babylon, Cutha, Ava, Hamath, and Sepharvaim, and settled them in the towns of Samaria to replace the Israelites. Dang. Like y'all weren't even there. It's like a hermit crab kicking another hermit crab out his shell. When they first lived there, they did not worship the Lord, so he sent lions among them, and they killed some of the people. It was reported to the king of Assyria, the people you deported and resettled in the towns of Samaria do not know what the God of that country requires. He has sent lions among them, which are killing them off because the people do not know what he requires. Then the king of Assyria gave this order. Have one of the priests you took captive from Samaria go back to live there and teach the people what the God of the land requires. So one of the priests who had been exiled from Samaria came to live in Bethel and taught them how to worship the Lord. Wait a minute. Full stop. Did he teach them the right way? Because part of the problem and the only reason they got kicked out in the first place was because they weren't doing what they were supposed to. Does this priest even know how to instruct them? Does he even remember what the commandments were? Nevertheless, each national group made its own gods in the several towns where they settled and set them up in the shrines of the people of Samaria had made at the high places. Okay. Well, nothing's really changed. The people from Babylon made Succoth Benoth, Those from Kutha made Nergal. Those from, yes, my 40K fans, Nergal is based off of ancient Mesopotamian false god. And those from Hamath made Ashima. The Avites made Nibhaz and Tartak, and the Sepharvites burned their children in the fire as sacrifices to Adramelech and Adramelech and Anamelech, the gods of Sepharvaim. They worshiped the Lord, but they also appointed all sorts of their own people to officiate for them as priests in the shrines at the high places. Oh, yeah, we'll give you a little bit of lip service, God. We'll worship you too, but really we're just tossing our children into the fire. Are we talking about Israel? Or are we talking about America? Are we talking about Western culture? Wait, Emmanuel, wait, is it an actual demon? What the Nurgle? Yes. I'm not well versed enough on the demonology or any of that stuff. But Nurgle was a Mesopotamian god. He's either a fake god, a false god, or he is an actual demon servant of Satan. Or maybe he is some sort of iteration of Satan. I don't know. But yes, if you were wondering where the chaos god of decay and plague came from, it's this one. Just spelled a wee bit different. They worship the Lord, but they also serve their own gods in accordance with the customs of the nations from which they have been brought. To this day, they persist in their former practices. They neither worship the Lord nor adhere to the decrees and regulations, the laws and commands that the Lord gave the descendants of Jacob, whom he named Israel. When the Lord made a covenant with the Israelites, he commanded them, do not worship any other gods or bow down to them, serve them, or sacrifice to them. But the Lord, who brought you up out of Egypt with mighty power and outstretched arm, is the one you must worship. To him you shall bow down, and to him offer sacrifices. You must always be careful to keep the decrees and regulations, the laws and commands he wrote for you. Do not worship other gods. Do not forget the covenant I have made with you, and do not worship other gods. Rather, worship the Lord your God, for it is he who will deliver you from the hand of all of your enemies. I am your protector. I am your dad. Give me the respect that's due to me and have faith in me. And I will take care of you. They would not listen, however, but persisted in their former practices. Even while these people were worshiping the Lord, they were serving their idols. To this day, their children and grandchildren continue to do as their ancestors did. As I said, sins of the father, also sins of the son. Hezekiah, king of Judah. Good night, Porcupine. In the 3rd year of Hoshea, son of Elah, king of Israel, Hezekiah, son of Ahaz, king of Judah, began to reign. He was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Judah 29 years. His mother's name was Abijah, daughter of Zechariah. He did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, just as his father David had done. He removed the high places, smashed the sacred stones, and cut down the Asherah poles. He broke into pieces the bronze snake Moses had made, for up to that time the Israelites had been burning incense to it. It was called Nehushtan. He broke it, so we're seeing. So let's back up. Hezekiah, based and wholesome, does what's right in the eyes of the Lord. Wants to follow in his commandments and decrees. Maybe seeing something about what was going on with Hoshea and decides something's got to change. Something does change. He does something that nobody else did, removing the high places. smashed the sacred stones, cut down the Asherah poles, and then a bronze snake Moses had made that they were worshiping like a god, apparently, because they burning incense to it. Maybe it got a little maybe it got a little bit corrupted. Hezekiah trusted in the Lord, the God of Israel. There was no one like him among all the kings of Judah, either before him or after him. Very important thing to understand. He held fast to the Lord and did not stop following him. He kept the commands the Lord had given Moses, and the Lord was with him. He was successful in whatever he undertook. He rebelled against the the king of Assyria and did not serve him. From watchtower to fortified city, he defeated the Philistines as far as Gaza and its territory. In King Hezekiah's fourth year, which was the 7th year of Hoshea, son of Elah, the king of Israel, Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, marched against Samaria and laid siege to it. At the end of 3 years, the Assyrians took it. So Samaria was captured in Hezekiah's 6th year, which was the 9th year of Hoshea, king of Israel. The king of Assyria deported Israel to Assyria and settled them in Hala, in Gozan, on the Habor River, and in the towns of the Medes. This happened because they had not obeyed the Lord their God, but had violated his covenant, probably every single one. All that Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded. They neither listened to the commands nor carried them out. In the 14th year of King Hezekiah's reign, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, attacked all the fortified cities of Judah and captured them. So Hezekiah, king of Judah, sent this message to the king of Assyria at Lachish: I have done wrong. Withdraw from me, and I will pay whatever you demand of me. The king of Assyria exacted from Hezekiah, king of Judah, 300 talents of silver and 30 talents of gold. So Hezekiah gave him all the silver that was found in the temple of the Lord and in the treasuries of the royal palace. At this time, Hezekiah, king of Judah, stripped off the gold with which he had covered the doors and doorposts at the temple of the Lord and gave it to the king of Assyria. There is more going on here than we understand. Let's see. Because, again, Hezekiah trusted in the Lord, the God of Israel. Is Hezekiah being... Here we go. Let's see if I can... Hezekiah's faithfulness to the Lord was accompanied by great military achievements. In 705 BC, Sargon of the second of Assyria... Hoshea is not Hosea. Hoshea is a king of Israel. Different guys. Sargon II of Assyria, not Akkad, died whilst fighting in Cappadocia. Hezekiah seized the opportunity and rebelled against the new king of Assyria, Sennacherib. He refused to pay tribute to the Assyrians and defeated the Philistines at Gaza, secured a defensive treaty with the king of Egypt. Hezekiah prepared for reprisals from the Assyrians by rebuilding Jerusalem's fortifications. He ensured its water supply during any future sieges by replacing... Hang on. He ensured the water supply during any future sieges by replacing the shallow Siloam channel that led outside of the city to the lower pool with a new underground tunnel from the Gihon Spring to the upper pool. Both the pools of Siloam and the nearby houses of many Jewish refugees who had settled here when the northern kingdom fell to the Assyrians a few years earlier were brought inside an extension to the city walls. Hezekiah's tunnel to the two pools. It ends right there. Tell me about. Here we go. Maybe there's another one. Hang on. Lachish was one of the 5 Amorite cities of Canaan who attacked Gibeon at the start of the Israelite conquest in 1406 BC. Its king was defeated by Joshua and killed in the cave at Makkedah, which we covered. Where are we at? Are we in 17? Oh, we're at 18. Okay, here we go. The new king of Assyria, Sargon's new son, Sennacherib, takes some time to establish his rule, but during the 14th year of King Hezekiah, he attacks Judah and occupies and destroys Lachish in order to punish his rebellious neighbor. He then moves on to attack Libnah. Hezekiah tries to buy the Assyrians off with a huge payment of silver and gold, but Sennacherib threatens to destroy Jerusalem, which is in effect Judah. But why? Why does he do it? Okay, let's keep reading. Maybe the answer will come to us. Sennacherib threatens Jerusalem. The king of Assyria sent his supreme commander, his chief officer, and his field commander with a large army from Lachish to King Hezekiah at Jerusalem. They came up to Jerusalem and stopped at the aqueduct of the upper pool on the road to the Washerman field. They called for the king, and Eliakim, son of Hilkiah, the palace administrator, Shebna, the secretary, and Joah, son of Asaph, the recorder, went out to them. The field commander said to them, "Tell Hezekiah, this is what the great king, the king of Assyria, says. Our arrows will blot out the sun." On what are you basing this confidence of yours? You say you have the counsel and the might for war, but you speak only empty words. On whom are you depending that you rebel against me? Look, I know you are depending on Egypt, that splintered reed of a staff which pierces the hand of anyone who leans on it. Such is Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to all who depend on him. But if you say to me, we are depending on the Lord our God, isn't he the one whose high places and altars Hezekiah removed, saying to Judah and Jerusalem, you must worship before this altar in Jerusalem? Come now, make a bargain with my master, the king of Assyria. I will give you 2,000 horses if you can put riders on them. How can you repulse one officer of the least of my master's officials, even though you are depending on Egypt for chariots and horsemen? Furthermore, I have come to attack and destroy this place without word from the Lord. The Lord himself told me to march against this country and destroy it. Then Eliakim, son of Hilkiah, and Shebna and Joah said to the field commander, please speak to your servants in Aramaic, since we understand it. Don't speak to us in Hebrew in the hearing of the people on the wall. Interesting. Sounds like they'd rather the people inside the city of Jerusalem or Lachish or wherever they're at, they don't want them hearing what's being said. This last part probably the most. This last part, however, is probably the most concerning. The Lord himself told me to march against this country and destroy it. Uh-oh. But the commander replied, "Was it only to your master and you that my master sent me to say these things, and not to the people sitting on the wall, who, like you, will have to eat their own excrement and drink their own urine?" Pee pee and poo poo. Then the commander stood and called out in Hebrew, "Hear the word of the great king, the king of Assyria. This is what the king says. Do not let Hezekiah deceive you. He cannot deliver you from my hand. Do not let Hezekiah persuade you to trust in the Lord when he says, 'The Lord will surely deliver us. The city will not be given into the hand of the king of Assyria.' Do not listen to Hezekiah. This is what the king of Assyria says. Make peace with me and come out to me. Then each of you will eat fruit from your own vine and fig tree and drink water from your own cistern until I come and take you to a land like your own, a land of grain and new wine, a land of bread and vineyards, a land of olive trees and honey. Choose life and not death." Do not listen to Hezekiah, for he is. Wait, I read that. Nope, I didn't. Do not listen to Hezekiah, for he is misleading you when he says, "The Lord will deliver us." Has the God of any nation ever delivered his land from the hand of the king of Assyria? It has here. Where are the gods of Hamath and Arpad? Where are the gods of Sepharvaim, Hena, and Eva? Have they rescued Samaria from my hand? Who of all the gods of all these countries have been able to save his land from me? How then can this Lord deliver Jerusalem from my hand? But the people remained silent and said nothing in reply because the king had commanded, "Do not answer him." Then Eliakim, son of Hilkiah, the palace administrator, Shebna, the secretary, and Joah, son of Asaph, the recorder, went to Hezekiah with their clothes torn and told him what the field commander had said. Yeah, I added that part though, MR. I added the arrows part. But yes, that's where I was getting it from 300. I'm keeping mature, but the pee pee poo poo will get them. Yep. Yeah. So here we go. So this sounds a little bit like a test. Judah is not innocent by any means in all of this. They're nowhere near as bad as Israel, but they haven't been doing. They haven't removed the high places. And while we said they do good, they did what was right in the eyes of the Lord. There's an asterisk. There's an asterisk in there. They didn't remove the high places, which still violates the 10 deeply the 10 commandments. It's almost like, hey, don't listen to God, because what is he actually going to do? That is exactly what he's saying, Emmanuel. That is exactly what he is saying. He's saying, why trust in God? We've conquered all these other nations, and all their other gods, all their gods haven't done squat. They haven't. And these are gods that they're worshiping in Israel right now, right? And that this is the interesting thing. This is the funny part. Um Make peace with me, come out with me, then each of you will eat fruit from your own vine and fig tree and drink water from until I come and take you to a land like your own. Oh, yeah, no, just enjoy the time you've got here, but I'm going to come by, pick you up, take you somewhere else. You're going to love it even more. It's another promised land. It's a new promised land. We promise you. They're not going to shove them in to live in the towns with the Medes. This sounds a lot like they're getting ready to put them on trains and send them into camps. Yeah, man, just enjoy what you got outside. Then I'm going to come by and pick you up and take you someplace nicer. I got some candy in my van. All of this sounds deeply serious. Like Look, Judah not only is neighbors with Israel, so they understand what has just happened in Israel, but they also have refugees from Israel living there who can tell them what has been going on. Yeah, come on out. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it over there. There's a little bit of carrot and a little bit of stick here. Here's the difference between the other gods that didn't help and the Lord our God. He's real. He's not false, and he has power over everything. So I wonder how this is all going to shake out, because while the field commander was chastising the Lord and daring them to do something, and also trying to lure them out with temptations of a better life. And he was saying it not just to the ambassadors or the what do you call it? Not a retinue. Anyway, sending out representatives. This guy kind of reminds me of the mouth of Sauron. If any of y'all read the books and or watched the extended cut of Lord of the Rings: Return of the King, this is what he kind of reminds me of. With that grin. The people don't answer. The people have listened to their king, and the king is listening to God. So, what's going to happen? We'll find out tomorrow night, because we're hitting an hour. I said it was going to be probably a short stream. It wasn't. It wasn't. Emmanuel, it always happens. What are you going to do? Stab me? Get stabbed. Ah, I can't believe you did this. Exactly. Why would you do this? Oh, dear. All right, guys. Like I said, I'm dragging tail tonight, but it was good. It's been a good hour I could spend with you. And it's time to wind down a little bit. MR, let me tell you about MR, other than not just the fact that he is doing his bar exam, so we need to keep him in our thoughts and prayers. And the best of success for you, Mr. MR, Mr. But he has given me a suggestion to play a game. I mean, is it in my wish? I thought I added it to my wish list. Hang on. Crap, I didn't add it. Oh, there it is. Pentiment. The game Pentiment, which is currently on sale, actually. This might be a game that as soon as I figure out how to set things up to stream, we might do this. We might do this. And it'll be I'll involve the chat with it. But I don't know how I want to play it out. Do I want to do it through Discord? Do I want to do it on locals? We'll see. But I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. But yes, MR, I'll reach out to you when I need help. But it'll be an interesting twist. We'll see how we'll do it. I might start mixing it in with a couple of the Bible streams, or do it on top of them. I don't know. Right now, all I know is I'm in the middle of the El Cid campaign in Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition. And that's what I'm going to be doing for the remainder of the evening. So I'm going to wind down and do that. In the meantime, to MR, Emmanuel, Osorio, Porcupine, who has gone to bed, Dresden, always quiet, but always comes in, drops in to say hi. Nernath, Alex, Hey, it was a good read. Emmanuel said it's a good read tonight. I'm glad I'm getting a daily dose of the Bible and learning to be a better Christian. I mean, sometimes you just need that time to set, and it doesn't need to be every day, right? It's good to do it. And I think that it's, some people have the discipline to sit down and just, read a little bit of the Bible each night. And it's hard for some of us. But when you incentivize it with, hey, come and read the Bible with us and talk about it with people, and you add that social side to it, that fellowship side with it, makes it easier to do. And that wasn't really something I was thinking would happen as a part of it. I didn't really think of it from that standpoint, but seems to be working. Just put myself out there and let God kind of show me which direction I need to take. And we'll see. But to you guys that I just mentioned in the chat, thank you guys for always making it great. Try to think. I know it sounds repetitive, but it's earnest each and every time I say it. Like I said, the show is not just me. I put it on, I host it, I put my face in there, my voice, and do all that. But you guys add your words, your impressions, your questions, and your encouragement to this. And that makes me very grateful. And I'm just, like I said, glad to have you guys on here. To everybody listening, thank you for your ears. Thank you for your attention. I'm glad I'm giving you something that you can better appreciate. For those catching me on the replay, hey, glad you guys are catching up. Glad you guys are doing this with windshield time, driving around, or as you're working or doing whatever it is that you're doing. Just glad to see you guys at it, right? So, with that said, you guys all have a very good night. And tomorrow we'll find out the other side of this Hezekiah story. But you guys have a very good night, and God bless. Lens tomorrow. Pick out something that you want to give up. I should have focused on that today. We'll talk about it tomorrow. All right. Have a good evening. God bless.